Today we are in the creative corner with a friend of mine, Mr. Stevie Boi. How are you today?
I am good. I'm good. And yourself?
Listen, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm feeling creative today, so that's always a great thing. But
Same.
today you're in the creative corner where we like to ask creatives how they took their ideas and turned it into a business. And you are specifically one of the people that I like to think about when the term create and hustle is applied, because you're actually one of the people who inspired me to do a lot of the things that I've done in the past few years. So can you tell us about what you do and how you got started? Well, I know it's changed now, but how you
Yeah.
got started.
Well, I am a fashion designer and now chef, but as well, not and now, but as well. I started my fashion brand in 2009 with, SB Shades, making sunglasses for myself that eventually landed on the likes of a lot of different celebrities. And been doing that for 13 years. And then as the time progressed, within the midst of like 5.5 years, I started getting into doing clothing. And then around like maybe the eighth or ninth year, that's when I started really teaching myself how to sew on a sewing machine. I took it serious to the point now I can make pretty much anything. There's no challenge for me. And the things I try to challenge myself on are so small. Like, for example, I didn't like the color pink, so I made an
Mhm.
entire collection entitled Pink. I don't like wearing white, so I made a collection called Cream. Those are my challenges based off of
Okay.
colors. But
And
like,
listen, I was there when you weren't able to so much. So
yes,
I get how
yes,
much of an advancement that is.
yeah.
We're on the creative corner with Stevie Boy on ESPN Richmond 106.1. One of the major questions that I want to ask you, Stevie, is like the one thing about you, you always keep strong relationships. What are your tips on like how you move with keeping people in the tuck and keeping people to where like you can reach out to them years later and they'll be like, sure, I'll be able to do that.
Honestly, I don't even know how. Like, I just managed to keep great relationships all throughout the years because, I mean, people change and people grow. Some people don't grow, but I will say this: I think honesty is one of the biggest things. Letting people know we don't have a budget, darling. There is no budget.
Okay.
There's no budget. So I'm gonna tell you all these great things that's gonna happen, but there is no budget. And then allow them to make the decision if they want to work with you or not. But usually when people do, they end up growing because they end up learning from the lesson or learning from that experience. So I think that's the reason why I have so many people around that I can just call because I've always been so honest, like with whatever the case may be.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Um, no, that definitely makes sense. Like I'm trying to apply that to my creative task as well with keeping strong relationships and stuff like that. And because you said you have been doing this since 2009, and just like me, I know that over time you get overwhelmed and it just becomes work. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So can you speak to like being a creative in those hard times? What tips you have or the things that you do to kind of push through to kind of keep that creative mojo going?
Yeah, so I'm now 32 years old, but at around 28, I came up with this decision on my 28th birthday. Not on my 28th birthday, going into my 29th birthday, actually. I was like, by the time I turn 30, I'm retiring. I don't want to do fashion anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure something out. But then I got a taste of my own medicine. Um, you got to be careful what you speak into existence or preach or pray for because jobs just started to slow down. My orders started to slow down. And then when I realized that money wasn't hitting like it's supposed to hit, I was like, no, I need to be a fashion designer all over again. Let's get out here.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was my reality. That was also my spiritual room that and you know this about me. I'm very careful with my words. I don't just be saying stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I made the change to decide that, okay, it's no time to quit. And then I start looking around. I got an award. I got Fashion Designer of the Year award, like back to back to back to back to back. I'm like, well, apparently I'm doing something right. I don't even live in that state. How did I get that? Like, I got a proclamation in Brooklyn, a proclamation in New Jersey, like all these places. I don't even live in these places. And like,
Right.
but yet people are voting for me and thinking about me. And that's why I always say you never know who's watching you. So I didn't realize how much of how much influence that I had, you know, especially in the streets of New York City, but in Baltimore and DMV area in general. But I just really decided that, okay, I'm being selfish to rob not just myself of my own talent, but I'm also robbing other people of inspiration as well. And future jobs and opportunities. So I am still going to be a fashion designer to the day I die, and you know, also balance it with being a chef, in which I've found a good way to do.
That's great. We're in the Creative Corner on ESPN Richmond 106.1 with Stevie. What I want to ask you is the difference of what you feel like being a creative in 2010 was, and how does it compare to what the creative is now? Because it was two totally different worlds.
Yeah.
You know, just being a creative person.
I'll be honest. Creativity has always been easy for me. I don't know why. I really feel like I was born to do what I do. However, in 2009, when I started, in the year 2010 in general, was obviously a culture shock for me because I didn't have the build up to become successful career. My stuff literally went overnight in a week. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't run a business. What am I doing? So I had no choice but to work and create constantly for Vogue magazine and all these different celebrities, overnight stuff. They're very expensive, you know, down to the post office and stuff, and down to FedEx, and just costing lots of money that I did not have. Luckily, I did work a government job, so I was able to fund myself, and you know, I was making a lot of money doing that, you know, for the U.S. Army. But the thing is that if I didn't have that, I don't even think I would be here, because it takes a lot of financial, you know, and you know this, like, to put into your brand, into your business of any kind, not just fashion, anything. But the creativity then was so, like, it was kind of like so stressful, because I had to kick out stuff, and I'm getting thrown ideas from all these top A-list artists, and they're giving me huge budgets, but that just because you got huge budgets don't mean anything. Like,
Yeah.
but where am I going to manufacture this though? I don't know what I'm doing. I just started only a week ago. Fast forward a month later with a Vogue magazine cover. Like, that's no one's reality. Now, the shady part, fast forward to 2022, it's just so easy. I literally just be sitting there, just like making things and just shipping them out. And my friend was here the other day, and she was like, "How do you do that so effortlessly?" I was like, "Do what?" And then I forgot I was making product.
It
I
becomes so
literally was sitting there
natural.
making product and forgot I was doing it. She's like, "You just made like 8 pair of sunglasses." I was like, "I did." That's what happens. Like, my mind is so used to it that I just don't be thinking. And then I'll look at it like, "Oh, that's actually kind of cute. I like that. I want to get that one. I want to wear that tomorrow." You know, like, it's like that now. I think it's just called, you practice your craft. And what do I do? I mean, you can always get better, but like, and I'm not, knock on wood, I'm not saying I'm the best in the world, but like, damn, like, you got to keep in mind, my craft is also something that I created. This hasn't really been done before. Like, there's always been people to, like, you know, embellish things, etc., but not to the level of like me literally like making sunglasses with working fans on them. Like, but from
Okay.
hand though, like,
From
not a
man.
manufactured product, you know. So I end up just learning how to perfect my craft. But I will say it's something that I have to constantly do. It's not something that I could take a break from, because you will end up forgetting. It's really sad too, because real quick, DJ Sky out in California, she literally, like, and you know this about yourself too, like, literally would be like, "Oh, the SB Shines, this and the third." And I'm like, how do my friends know all the names of my product?
Yeah.
This is embarrassing. I made it and named it and don't know the name.
That was a listen, that was an era. That was an era. And it's so
It
it's
was
so
era.
real about what you said about like stopping, because I picked up the paintbrush the other day. I was like, "Ooh, I'm rusty." I haven't
Yeah.
picked up a paintbrush in so long. A couple weeks ago in a couple episodes, I spoke about pivoting. And you know, I wanted to talk to you now because I know that you did the designer thing, but now you're trying a different thing. So tell us about like the chef and the cooking and what's going on with that.
So, as you know, like, staying at, you know, friends' house, when you start off, you don't really have much money. So you stay at each other's houses, kiki, and do all that. And you know, hit the red carpet and everything looks fabulous. Six to the third, but then you get hungry. So when you get back to the house, you got to cook. So, you know, since the beginning of the career, I've always stayed at my friend's house and I've always cooked for them. It was like my way of paying them, you know, in, you know, currency, like with food. And I've always told like, yo, like you really need to take this serious. Like you could like be a chef one day or like be a chef. Like, but at that time in the beginning of the career, I was still working for the US Army, you know, the government, and, you know, ripping and running the streets of New York City, being
Mhm.
fabulous. Stevie Boy. So there was really no time to be like trying to be a professional chef. Plus, also the lack of education thereof, with me thinking that I had to be in school or have a degree to have it. Found out that's not true. None of that's true.
Yeah.
Um, but then it was just only like when the COVID happened, when the
When the COVID
when
happened.
when you know the pandemic happened, I moved to Seattle with my sister Shalithia, and she just retired military, 20 some years, almost 30. And I just was cooking every day for my nephew and my niece, and her husband. And something was like, take this serious when you move back to the East Coast. Like, make this like a real, like, legitimate career. And then you know how my brain works. So I'm like, but I still gotta mix it with fashion. But how can I do it at the same time? So then I came up with Stevie Boy Eats. I created a cookbook in less than a week. They go that week thing again. I always do things in less than a week. Had the book out, got it in stores, every single store, every platform. That did real good. Stevie Boy Eats International Soul, in which, you know, focused on my upbringing, growing up in all these different countries, but being a Southern belle, being Gullah Geechee, you know, having my Southern roots, but still infusing my German cuisines, the, you know, et cetera, or the Asian cuisines. And I decided, okay, when I get back to the East Coast, and which I did, I moved back home to Maryland. And then I decided to hit my architect up, Travis Price in DC, and ask him if I could use this house to do a Stevie Boy Eats pop up restaurant mixed with a fashion show. So then I was able to not just mix fashion with food, but literally bring in two different complete audiences that have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
And, you know, and then break down the stereotypical wall of, oh, you know, us models don't eat, us fashion people don't eat. And it was crazy when I tell you I made a movie. It was a complete movie. People were crying. People like, I know it sounds dramatic, but like people, like I wanted this Black experience that was extremely high end in a very wealthy, prominent neighborhood in the middle of DC at my architect's house. I mean, I don't know how much more luxury I can get the more I explain this, but like just Black excellence, multimillionaires, politicians, etc., people that aren't millionaires, people that aren't super successful that have been following me. I say, hey man, just come on down. It takes our $50 though. I still got to get paid, but you know, come on down.
Listen,
There's no
listen.
discount. We don't do discounts. I put my work in all these years. I'm going on 15 years.
Listen. That's
$50.
how I be
You can afford them
feeling.
Yeezys. You can afford $50 to a 4-course meal and a
Yes,
fashion show. I'm giving you a whole thing.
a whole thing.
And you
I
coming to see
respect it.
Beyonce? Beyonce?
Yo, you are silly. Stevie, let the people know where they can find you on socials and what you have coming up next.
Okay, so I decided in the future now to direct people mostly to my website. So
Ooh,
that's
good
just
one.
stevieboy.com. That traffic needs to continue to go up. It's doing really well right now. Compared to just going on social media, you can go to my website and find whatever social media platform that you would prefer to follow me on, and it will be on there, darling.
I like that. I like that. Well, Stevie, I want to thank you for joining us in the Creative Corner, where we ask creatives, how did you take your idea and turn it into a business? So I want to thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And congrats on your success as well.
Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you, friend.